You post an ad for a roommate. You get several people interested, but nobody seems promising. Then a British woman shows up at your door one day and charms you into taking the room. Days later, an intense search gets underway after a series of letters explain you've left the country. And then a dismembered corpse is discovered 100 miles away. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the true crime author of close to 50 books. I've dedicated the past 25 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. You might have noticed I changed the opening from 20 years to 25 years because I just realized I've been in the game now 25, 26 years. Whew. Unreal. It's a lot of murder. It's the summer of 1990, Pompano Beach, Florida, a peak time for serial killer activity in the United States. What could possibly go wrong? Serial killer in Florida in the same sentence? Pompano Beach is south of Deerfield and Hillsborough beaches on the Atlantic Ocean side of the state. These are nice areas with people lazily strolling around in their best beach garb, sunbathers lying on the plush sand, soaking up the rays, high-rise condos spread up and down the strip, retirees and others living the life of luxury, sitting on their decks, staring out into the open sea, sipping a margarita, maybe even catching the early bird special somewhere in town. There's taco and ice cream trucks, surf shops, and plenty of those t-shirt and knick-knack stores for the tourists. So you get the picture. For the most part, Pompano Beach is a peaceful little slice of Florida life, situated between Fort Lauderdale to the south and Boca Raton to the north. The city claims on its website Pompano is a vibrant, sophisticated, multi-dimensional destination with a 3-mile stretch of pristine shoreline. I'm not sure I would go that far, but it is, like I said, a very nice area. Having been to Pompano many times, I recall the Pompano Beach Pier, where people flock to for a walk or for fishing. After all, the town and beach is named after the pompano fish, a silvery, flashy, thin thing with sharply pointed fins. I was once there during the winter, walking along the vibrant, sophisticated beach, and began to see what looked like blue balloons washing up on shore. They had these extremely long, antenna-like tentacles drifting about the water. If you came within a few feet of the tentacles, you'd begin to itch. They're called the Portuguese man-o'-war, not a true jellyfish, but often referred to as one. To be stung by the man-o'-war, let me tell you, hurts like hell. In July 1990, a time of the year when it's close to like 300 degrees in Florida in the shade, 34-year-old Beverly McGowan is searching for a roommate. Beverly has long black hair, an inviting smile, and carries herself as a kind, gentle soul. She's independent, loves Pompano, and has a condo in town very close to the beach. Working as what I have read is a bank clerk and a loan processor, Beverly has decided to rent out an empty bedroom in her condo. So she places a classified ad in the Sun-Sentinel, a major Florida newspaper then. The ad is pretty basic. She lists herself as a 34-year-old female with 2 cats. The price of the bedroom is $290 plus utilities, which is not a bad deal to live so close to the water. Beverly receives several calls and has each person go through what is an interview process. As she begins talking to potential roommates, no one seems to be the right fit. After all, she and her new roommate will be living together, and some sort of a connection, or at least a level of comfort, needs to be part of the deal. And so far, she hasn't felt that. Then one day she receives a call from a woman named Alice, who says she works for IBM, and although she is originally from England, Alice has been recently transferred to Fort Lauderdale and needs a place to live close to the office. Alice comes across mature, professional, friendly, and even a bit eccentric, which is something Beverly is very much interested in. Alice drives a nice car, dresses nicely, knows how to speak well, and has a certain energy about her. Beverly believes they'll get along just great. She's into numerology, Beverly tells a friend after deciding Alice will get the room. Numerology is a belief system that one has in the idea that there is mystical and divine meaning in numbers and their relationship with events and people. The numerical value of letters in names and dates, according to numerology, gives one a better understanding of that person's character along with their life's path and personality. Most say there is no basis in science in numerology. I'm not judging here, just restating the research that's out there about it. After telling her friend about Alice's passion for numerology, Beverly says, "She asked me for my passport and driver's license numbers so she could predict my future." The friend asks Beverly if she gave them to Alice. "I did. I was cautious, and Alice told me after looking at it that I would come into money, have no worries in my life, and when I was 40, I would meet a man I would marry." One other report also claims Alice told Beverly that she would be both hurt and deceived by a man and woman she knows. Beverly is happy she's found someone to move in, and by July 15th, far as I can tell, Alice and Beverly are living together. Several days after Alice moves in, right around July 19th, a few of Beverly's friends receive letters from her in Beverly's handwriting. "I'm quitting my job, I am selling the condo, and I have decided to start traveling," Beverly apparently writes. This is a complete 180 from where Beverly had been just a few days before. She was excited to have a roommate she seemed to like. She had not mentioned anything about selling the condo, quitting her job, and traveling. Not a word. Now, all of a sudden, she's purging her life in Pompano and taking off. Friends begin calling Beverly to ask what is going on. But they can't get a hold of her. They keep calling and calling. They stop by her place, call her at work. But Beverly McGowan is AWOL, nowhere to be found. Which is weird and very much unlike Beverly. Beverly's siblings, her brother and sister, head over to the condo to see what's going on. They cannot find her vehicle. She has not been seen at work in several days. Her phone has been disconnected, her bed is unmade, and strangely, her nightgown is lying on top of the bedsheet. So they do some digging. Beverly's passport and birth certificate are gone. Her 2 cats are nowhere to be found. Then they find out Beverly had sent a telegram to her mortgage company asking them to foreclose on the condo, giving them permission to toss out all of her belongings left inside the place. Now, 100 miles away from the condo, on the same day, a man is out fishing on the edge of the Florida Everglades. As he is walking around, searching for that ideal spot to cast his line, he sees something odd about halfway down an embankment. So he walks over. At first, the man thinks he's found what he later describes as a bag full of rags. So he goes in for an even closer look. Moments later, taking a peek inside the bag, he is suddenly startled, and as one reporter put it, he recoils and runs back to his family sitting in a station wagon nearby. A body, he tells his family, inside that bag. Yet, this body, he states further, is missing its head and hands. The man had come across a torso with legs. Let's take a break here. Come right back. When authorities begin to take a look at what was discovered in the Everglades by that fisherman, something they find on the headless, handless corpse tells them the unidentified victim's killer went to great lengths to conceal the person's identity. After pulling up the female victim's shirt, exposing her midsection, they see that her killer had carved out a section of her skin just above her waistline. Maybe a tattoo? It's clear the reason for the dismemberment is to shield any chance of identifying the woman. So the missing piece of skin was likely a tattoo. That's someone determined. I'll say that. In studying the body further, however, they soon realized the murderer made an error, likely in haste. Just below the hemline of the victim's jeans, the medical examiner finds the small tattoo of a yellow flower on the victim's ankle, which is enough to link the headless body to Beverly McGowan. And from there, it doesn't take long to make a positive identification. The medical examiner is fairly certain Beverly's killer used a machete to dismember her, though later reports also mention a chainsaw. After talking to family and friends, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to make the leap toward Alice being the last person to see and speak with Beverly, pushing her to becoming the number one suspect in Beverly's grisly murder and dismemberment. The quest then becomes finding Alice. How do you even begin such a task, assuming that Alice is likely not the woman's actual name? And even at that, you have no surname. What you do is track Beverly's passport, credit card numbers, and bank accounts. It's pretty clear the numerology ruse was designed by Alice to get hold of Beverly's personal information, steal her identity, and pillage anything she has worth any money. Within a few days, investigators are told that an attractive blonde woman with an English accent used Beverly's credit card to buy clothes at a local Florida shopping mall and also books. The same person had also withdrawn $795 from Beverly's bank account, leaving just $5 in the account. And they find out that that money was withdrawn from an ATM in southern Florida. Here's the thing about psychopaths. They are nothing else if not predictable. You dismember a woman and then go shopping for books and clothes and leave $5 in her bank account, which is a way, in this case, I think, of saying, look at me, you'll never catch me. Because psychopaths, as cunning as this woman Alice is, and you'll soon hear, they don't make mistakes like that. So she is sticking it to law enforcement by doing that. Investigators then obtain information that a British woman, Sylvia Ann Hodgkinson, who had flown into Miami back on June 18th from England about a month before Beverly's murder, had taken a return flight back to Heathrow Airport in England on July 22nd. It's clear Alice and Sylvia are one and the same person. Through that information, they also learn that Sylvia Hodgkinson is yet another alias, one of close to a dozen aliases the actual woman, Elaine Parent, has been using. Yet, investigators do not yet have this name, Elaine Parent. When she gets off the plane at Heathrow, Elaine, wearing a black wig to disguise herself, walks up to the Avis rental kiosk and presents Beverly's credit card to pay for the car. That card has been denied, Mom, the agent says. I like that little British accent. Watching some BritBox, Acorn. Beverly's family had, of course, put a cancellation on all of her accounts once they found out she had been murdered. The report I have indicates that Elaine was able to con the woman at the Avis counter into allowing her to take the car with the promise that Avis would be reimbursed. And no matter how she did it, Elaine Parent drives away from Heathrow in that rental car. And investigators lose her trail soon after that. By now they have her name, but it's as if Elaine Parent touches down at Heathrow and then disappears into the wind. They cannot seem to track her anywhere. Obviously, she stops using Beverly's identity and is now traveling under another assumed name. And soon, Elaine Parent will become infamously known as the Chameleon Killer. I once wrote about a woman similar to Elaine Parent. And honestly, these types of brutally violent female killers are one and the same. My psychopath, Tracy Richter Roberts, murdered a 19-year-old boy who lived down the street from her in early Iowa after luring him to her house, a crime that took 10 years to prosecute. Tracy and Elaine share some of the same characteristics. This obsessive need for the stimulation involved in conning people using elaborate means, and also changing their identities using extreme measures. Both Tracy and Elaine also use their good looks, sex appeal, leaning on their absolute expertise as pathological liars to convince people to trust them. The stimulation they get from the way they can trick people is off the charts. These types of psychopaths live for this. That stimulation is like a drug to them. They sit back after such a crime and they laugh. They take pleasure in being able to not only elude police and capture, but in the process, accumulate wealth and bodies, all while engaging in this cat and mouse with law enforcement. And for whatever reason, when you look back at their criminal history, you see a series of near captures where they were able to escape handcuffs by a mere whisper, as you'll soon see in Elaine Parent's case. Elaine does not show up again on the radar until October 1990, when she heads back to the States from England, but this time flies into LAX in California. She is traveling under the alias of Sylvia Hodgkinson before transforming herself into a woman named Charlotte Ray Cowan. Again, here is Elaine sticking it to law enforcement by using Sylvia Hodgkinson, a name she knows they have. It's a catch-me-if-you-can scenario. From Los Angeles, Elaine heads to Miami, no doubt with the next con, identity theft and murder, on her mind. As she is driving in North Miami, Elaine is pulled over by traffic police for driving an overdue rental car with stolen license plates, which seems like a sloppy mistake to me for a career criminal like Elaine to make, but there you go. Here, as the officer is talking to Elaine, it is discovered that she is carrying several different identification papers, those of Sylvia Hodgkinson, Charlotte Ray Cowan, and even her real identity, Elaine Parent. You would think they got her. To say the least, they cuff Elaine and haul her in, not yet knowing who they actually have in custody. Held in Dade County Jail, Elaine gets herself in front of a judge and begins to explain in her own way what is going on. The State Department is said to be interested in questioning Elaine, perhaps thinking she is some sort of a spy or foreign national they need to take a closer look at. Also, Scotland Yard is searching for Elaine under several of her aliases, so when any of those names she uses pop up in the system, Scotland Yard would be alerted. And yet, this is 1990. So things don't move as fast as they do today. I'll give them that. Before the State Department, who would have easily figured out who they have in custody, show up at the jail, the judge decides to release Elaine on bail, which she quickly posts. No one in the police department or the justice system had run Elaine's name through the system to see if anybody was looking for her at the time she is released. How does that happen? But it did. And so you see what I mean. Sometimes these psychopaths seem to slip and slither their way out of things for some reason I will never understand. I mean, what would it have taken to just hold her for a day so the State Department, assuming they have good reason, could ask her a few questions and get a read on her? But here is a judge who says, nope, cannot hold her, release her on bail. So Elaine leaves the Dade County Jail and, of course, disappears into the Florida sunset once again under a new name. The way to find someone like this is to dig deep into their lives and try to find out all of the names and aliases they commonly use. Because without having those names, you really have no idea who she could be at any given time. And with Elaine, she is an expert at this game of cat and mouse. She knows exactly what she is doing and how far she can take things. And so, years go by, and not a word about Elaine Parent is heard, where she might be, or how many others she's conned, or how many others she's murdered. Some reports claim Elaine Parent murdered up to 8 people. Let's take our final break, come back, and get into how they finally catch this evil, violent, intelligent psychopath, Elaine, the chameleon killer Parent. More to come soon. Head over to patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps and sign up for my free content page, where I'll be interacting with you, doing live streams, posting exclusive content, and dropping a major limited series podcast exclusively for Patreon members. That's patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps. patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps. Elaine Parent was close to 50 years old when she murdered Beverly McGowan. At any given time, she sports dark black, very shortly cropped hair, but at other times, she had red or blonde hair. Her eyes are dark, her skin very fair, almost ghost white. She would often disguise herself as a man as well, and yet Elaine became known as the world's most wanted woman. That nickname, the Chameleon, wasn't some sort of headline dreamt up by a savvy newsroom editor or later given to Elaine as a Hollywood serial killer nickname while being induced into the true crime television zeitgeist in a documentary. Elaine had given the name to herself by sending a painting of herself to the police, signing off with this: "Best wishes, your chameleon." Elaine wasn't even actually British. Most reports claim she was an American woman born in the Bronx, and she posed as a British citizen. This part of her story falls directly in line with Tracy Richter Roberts, the Iowa woman I wrote about. I mean, almost like identical. Like Tracy used Elaine Parent's story as kind of a script. Elaine had once lived with a woman, her lover, in London. After the woman kicked her out of the flat, Elaine was said to have kidnapped her lover's dogs, taken them to America, and held them for a ransom. Back in Florida, after she is released on bail by that tone-deaf judge, Elaine winds up in New Mexico, reportedly running a restaurant, and is now passing herself off as a South African woman. The energy these psychopaths have is just off the charts. She then returns to Florida under yet another assumed name and actually sues the state after a fall inside a restaurant. That's how bold and brash she is. She files a lawsuit against the state. She's wanted for multiple murders, dismembering a woman, identity theft, a host of crimes. She sues the state of Florida. And get this, she wins the lawsuit before disappearing once again. Some reporting out there has Elaine living in Florida throughout her early life, her first arrest being for shoplifting. Those who knew her describe Elaine as charming, beautiful, and elusive. You think? Who had always presented herself as being a bisexual woman. When she became angry, some of those who knew her reported she became violent. One psychologist who studied Elaine later said she was, quote, driven by her own psychological demons and steals identities compulsively to fill up the emptiness of her own personality. I don't know. Elaine hits many of the markers most psychopaths do. There's nothing special about her, whether she is filling a childhood void or not. And she thrives on the pathological traits, lying, superficial charm, being seduced by a sense of self-worth, lack of remorse, parasitic lifestyle, impulsivity, and so on. Her nature is to hurt people, which gives her an incredible sense of control and, as I have been saying, stimulation. We see this in the way she invites law enforcement to hunt for her and toys with them throughout that process, as if saying, you can keep trying, but you'll never catch me. The taunting and teasing is thrilling to her. She cannot survive without it. She had once sent an ex-lover a threatening letter using letters cut out from a newspaper, gluing her message to the paper as if she was some sort of kidnapper from the 1940s, telling the woman she would one day kill her. When law enforcement were later able to put together a larger profile on Elaine, they found out she had reportedly been seen in Turkey, Paris, Australia, and South Africa. So Elaine spent her adult life scouring the globe, constantly on the run from one crime to the other. Elaine had even faked her own death, twice, and was known to troll bars, homeless shelters, and graveyards in search of identities she could steal. When Elaine was pulled over in Florida for driving that overdue rental, she was using the name Charlotte Cowan as one of her aliases. Investigators had finally tracked down the real Charlotte Cowan, and, oh boy, does Charlotte have an incredible story to tell them. Cowan met Elaine in Florida in 1986 at an Orlando bar. They struck up a close friendship. At the time, Elaine had red hair, presented herself as a British woman, very charismatic and well-spoken. Elaine wore only the most expensive clothes and came across as a wealthy socialite. As the friendship blossomed, Charlotte says, Elaine uses her numerology trick to convince Charlotte to hand over her personal information so she can read her numbers, which seems to be Elaine's go-to con throughout most of her life. Pretty good one. If people will buy it, you're golden. Elaine explained to Charlotte that she had just gotten out of a relationship with a woman who had hurt her. Charlotte's mother even met Elaine and later described her as a sophisticated person. Then one night, not long after Charlotte met Elaine, near 3 a.m., Elaine shows up at Charlotte's doorstep. She is wearing a disguise, a fake mustache, and men's clothing. She tells Charlotte, I used this disguise to escape from a hospital. She further explains that her brother had her committed to a psychiatric facility to keep her from inheriting a fortune left by their aunt. Please give me your birth certificate, she begs Charlotte. Please, 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 so I can get an ID and hide from my brother. Charlotte caves and gives it to her. Elaine ultimately mails the birth certificate back, but Charlotte, and I would add luckily here, never sees her again. It's not until 2002 that law enforcement, working from a tip they received, track Elaine down to an apartment in Panama City, Florida, which is along the Panhandle in the far western part of the state. When they arrive at the apartment, there she is, standing in the doorway, almost as if she had been waiting for them to show up. Elaine invites them in. They explain why they are there. She says she completely understands. And then this: if I could just take a moment to get dressed. After some discussion, seeing that there is no way for Elaine to escape her bedroom, they agree. So Elaine retreats to her bedroom, closes the door. The investigators waiting then hear a loud. Elaine had shot herself in the heart with a .357 Magnum, killing herself instantly, which fits into the context almost perfectly of who she was and how this would all end. There are many victims of Elaine parents out there law enforcement will never know about, because Elaine definitely died with secrets. Let's face it, you don't murder a woman and dismember her body, cut tattoos off her skin to hide her identity for the first time. So I am confident in saying that Elaine Parent is likely responsible for those 8 murders law enforcement has said she's committed. Maybe more. And she would have gotten away with Beverly's murder had she not overlooked that one small tattoo on her ankle. That's it for this week. Be safe, be aware. Sources for this episode include 90 Murder Trail Leads to Woman by Donna Pezdira, Sun Sentinel, December 11th, 1996. Chameleon Killer Cheats the Florida Police by Ending Her Many-Faced Life by Tim Tate, Telegraph, April 21st, 2002. Decapitation Murder Remains Unsolved, Tampa Bay Times Staff, September 21st, 2005. Unsolved Mysteries, November 13th, 1991 episode. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinus, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Music by Epidemic Sound. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.